I don't know if it's because the last couple of days locally it's been raining or not, but I have had a hankering to talk about Ludicolo, a water grass type Pokemon that benefits from having its Swift Swim ability enabled in the rain, as well as gaining further power on its water type stab attacks. Ludicolo being a water grass type Pokemon means it is quad resistant to water type attacks while also being resistant to ground and steel while having three weaknesses to flying, bug, and poison. So overall, Ludicolo doesn't have a plethora of resistances or weaknesses, but what it does have is relatively nice, seeing as water is a very strong offensive typing here. So being able to have that quad resistance could be relatively nice, especially since rain is fairly prevalent thanks to the rise of our Chaladon. Now, you do have to keep in mind too that freeze dry, with how it works, is technically four times super effective against Ludicolo, but thankfully you don't really see a whole lot of freeze dry in the current format with Regulation H, with Iron Bundle being banned. And while you might potentially run into the odd freeze dry on the off chance with a Alola Ninetales on the ladder, typically you tend to see Blizzard, Icy Wind, Aurora Veil, Encore, Moonblast. So really, it's kind of hard to fit freeze dry into a moveset on them. So you should be relatively safe, but just keep in mind you might run into the odd freeze dry off Alola Ninetales if you decide to bring Ludicolo to the ranked ladder for Regulation H. Now, also one more thing to keep in mind too is because our Chaladon is a thing, Ludicolo does have some problems with trying to fit onto a team because it has been power crept over the years, but I think Ludicolo could spice some things up, and honestly, it might even be nice on a rain team next to an Archaladon of your own. So with that in mind, let's jump right on into the showdown ladder, and I want to talk about the stats here first on Ludicolo. We have 80 HP, 70 in both its attack and defense, 90 special attack, 100 special defense, and 70 speed. If you have a beneficial nature with max investment here, your speed is hitting 122. So if Swift Swim is enabled and you have that speed doubled, you are sitting at 244. If you decide to run max speed and a timid nature, you hit 134, which means you do hit 268 speed, which is fairly solid for the Regulation H format. Now, Regulation G is coming back, so that is going to be considerably slower in standards compared to Reg H and Reg G, since there are going to be Paradox Pokemon with Speed Booster, Photosynthesis, or Quark Drive activated that will be able to outspeed Ludicolo in the rain, even with its +2. But that said, we don't have to worry about that in Regulation H at the current moment. Now, Ludicolo's base 90 special attack might have been better off in the day because Ludicolo did debut in Ruby and Sapphire, two games that are both over 20 years old. I just recently learned that Coliseum itself, which came out a little bit after them, is 21 years old. So I inadvertently dated myself there because I did play Coliseum and hurt my own feelings a little bit. But anyways, the more you know, Coliseum's 21 years old. But anyways, getting back to the point, back when Ludicolo first debuted, 90 was well, it got you a little bit further back then than it does now. A lot of things do have more than 90 special attack or 90 physical attack for that matter, but because Ludicolo does get the added bonus to water type attacks in the rain on top of having stab, don't let that fool you. You can easily power this thing up with either a Life Orb or a Choice Specs. If you want to go the offensive route or if you want to go the supportive route, you can definitely do that. Now, I used to play Ludicolo quite a bit in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and what I used to like to do was I used to like to run the Assault Vest, not the Auspicious Armor, the Assault Vest here, and this way, we take advantage of the fact that Ludicolo already has some solid special defense at base 100. So, without any investment and just max IVs, you do hit 120. And I liked to run a Calm Nature to hit 132. I'd put a little bit of speed into this thing just to be able to outspeed Mega Salamence at the time because Mega Salamence was a problem. And then the rest would go into special attack, defense, and bulk. I didn't run a whole lot of speed investment onto Ludicolo, but the nice thing here is being able to outspeed Mega Salamence with Ludicolo and hit it with an ice type attack. Yeah, that was kind of a fun thing to see. Anyways, glory days aside. What you could potentially do here is you could take advantage of terrestrialization, and if you do, maybe running a Modest Nature might be relatively nice. You could run Timid, but Terra Water or Terra Grass to double up on your stab could be relatively nice. I didn't realize this until I just started looking into Ludicolo again, but Ludicolo does get access to Weather Ball. Weather Ball being a base 50 power normal type move that changes type based off the weather, as well as doubling in power. If this turns into a water type attack thanks to Rain Dance, well, if you guys follow the competitive circuit, you can see what a Pelipper can do with a Weather Ball, and even Polito can hurt with Weather Ball, so Ludicolo is definitely going to be no exception. And actually, let's bring up Polito for a quick second there. Yeah, Politoed has exactly base 90 special attack as well, so Ludicolo and Politoed, they can both hit hard with Weather Ball, and so can Pelipper. And actually, let's bring up Pelipper for a quick second there. Pelipper's got 95, so Pelipper does hit a little bit harder than the other two, but point is, Weather Ball is going to be really nice coming off of Ludicolo, so don't let that 90 special attack fool you by any means. So Weather Ball can be great, especially if you want to double up on your stab, maybe go Terra Water. But the other nice thing too is where rain is so prevalent, people might run Alola Ninetales to bring snow or Torkoal to bring sun. Weather Ball will change type, and therefore you can have some extra coverage right there. So you could have Weather Ball as unintentionally some fire type or ice type coverage, or even rock type coverage because of the Tyranitar and sand. But the point here is Weather Ball could be great on Ludicolo. And if you don't want to have a move that can constantly change type, well, as your only water type forms of coverage, and you want to run an offensive route, like maybe you say you want to run a choice spec set, what we could do here is we could take out the Assault Vest, put the specs on here. We could have Weather Ball. If we wanted some good water type damage here, we could put on our filter, and this can give us access to Surf or Hydro Pump. Chilling Water is a little bit more of a supportive option. You could run Muddy Water in doubles, which, I mean, Muddy Water could be nice if you land it. Now, I do have to say that because it is 85 accuracy. Similarly enough, Hydro Pump's only 80, but Muddy Water could be nice since it is a spread move, and unlike Surf, it doesn't hit your partner Pokemon, and you do have a 30% chance to lower the accuracy of the target, which could be relatively nice. So maybe you want to run Muddy Water, Hydro Pump, or Surf. We'll put Muddy Water in here for now. That could be some nice water type damage for Ludicolo, and plus it's a spread move too, so it does get around redirection like Follow Me and Rage Powder. So you could have that, and it wouldn't hurt to have some grass type coverage as well to deal with opposing water type Pokemon. So if we decide to put on our grass type filter here, we have the access of Energy Ball, Giga Drain, Grass Knot, and pretty sure we get Leaf Storm. Yeah, it's literally under Grass Knot. I'm just not fully awake here because it is relatively early in the morning. But anyways, we could have Leaf Storm here for a whopping base 130 power. We could have Grass Knot, which does go up in power based off of the weight of the opponent. If they are a heavy Pokemon there, you do a lot more damage compared to, like, say, hitting a lighter Pokemon. So when we eventually switch back to Reg G, that could be relatively nice for opposing Kyogre or Groudon. I'm fairly certain both Koridon and Miraidon are heavy, but I mean, they're Dragon types, so unless they terrestrialize away from the Dragon typing, don't do that, but just keep that in the back of your mind. A lot of restricted Pokemon are fairly heavy Pokemon, so if they do terrestrialize into a type that's weak to Grass, Grass Knot could be funny, and you could do a lot of damage there. You could have Giga Drain, which is the weakest out of the 4 damaging options that I did mention, but it does recover back some HP for you, so you could have access to Giga Drain, or you could go for Energy Ball and have a nice middle ground with 90 power and 100 accuracy, whereas Leaf Storm does have that 90 accuracy in exchange for the base 130 power. And plus, Leaf Storm also lowers your special attack 2 stages, so it could be great to hit your opponent and do some massive damage there with Leaf Storm, but it's probably not the greatest to be constantly lowering your special attack. So honestly, you could make the choice between Energy Ball or Leaf Storm in this case. And then some coverage options right here. It wouldn't hurt to have access to, say, maybe Ice Beam. Ice Beam could be great for hitting flying type Pokemon. It could also be nice to run a little bit of speed control if you absolutely need it with Icy Wind. So you could technically do this too. You could have Icy Wind Ludicolo. And with the specs, I mean, you are still getting your special attack powered up, so you could do a fair amount of damage. So as far as some EVs go for a offensively geared Choice Spec Sweeper Ludicolo, you probably want to go heavy into the speed. Like, you could go all the way up to 122. You could maybe run your special attack, like say maybe 156 to hit 143, or you could go higher. The main reason why I'm stopping right there is in case you wanted to run a little bit of HP investment. Maybe you want to run like say 168 for your HP total. So you could have something like this, or you could just go a little bit lower into the HP, maybe only put the 4 points just to maximize your special attack. You could do something like this, or if you want to go a little bit more on the bulkier route, maybe what you do here is you take out a little bit of your special attack, maybe go down to 147, put in a little bit into your defense, seeing as Ludicolo only has 70 defense right here. Maybe you lower your speed too, because you are kind of on the frailer side with the physical defense, with it only being 70. So, I mean, being able to put up a little bit more into your defense could be relatively nice. So, if you want to put the 76 EVs into your defense to hit 100, you could have that. And then that way too, if you are worried about taking hits, you could further augment that with either Friend Guard or Reflect. So you could do something like that. And then you could just put the remaining 20 EVs into your special defense maybe. Maybe you also have like Light Screen. Maybe you're playing Grimmsnarl on your team. That could be relatively nice. Or even just having an Incineroar for that matter with access to Parting Shot, which does lower both offensive stats. That could be really nice for keeping Ludicolo around for your longevity. And if you are running Leaf Storm, I mean, you are periodically going to be switching out Ludicolo there to reset your special attack. So that definitely doesn't hurt in the long run for that matter. But but the other thing here too is you might not necessarily want to run Choice Specs Ludicolo. Ludicolo could be used more as a little bit of some offense or offensive support. You do get access to Fake Out, so that could be great for slowing some things down and tying them up. Maybe you want to run something like, say, Pelipper, Archaludon, Ludicolo, Incineroar, and then you could have a nice little core there. Maybe you have Comfey to have some healing support thanks to Floral Healing and Triage. So maybe something like this, and we're just going to put these Pokemon in right quick. So maybe you want to run, like, say, Incineroar with Pelipper. Switch that over to Drizzle. We bring in Arch. We bring in Comfey. And now, just like that, we've got 5 Pokemon right here. And because Archaludon does get access to Body Press and Electro Shot, like technically it could be considered a little bit mixed here. So this could be a nice little core you got going at the moment here. Maybe we throw Snarl here and then say Dragon Pulse. Throw on an Assault Vest because that's what most Archaludon like to run. Maybe we run a Sash or a Damp Rock on the Pelipper. We could have, like, say, Tailwind to speed up Arch, Weather Ball, Hurricane. You could put Wide Guard here this last slot, but I'm pretty sure Pelipper does get Helping Hand. So you could do something like this, and then just with your Incineroar, you could be looking at, like, say, Flare Blitz for when you're out of the rain, Knockoff. You know, fairly standard Incineroar stuff here, by the way. Parting Shot and Fake Out. So you do have a little bit of utility with the pivot in the Parting Shot, and then you could also cycle through Fake Outs on both Ludicolo and Incineroar. And if you're running, like, say, a more supportive Ludicolo in this case with the Fake Out, maybe what you're running is, like, say, maybe Icy Wind. Maybe you're still running Weather Ball. You could potentially put Protect on here, but another thing that I do want to point out is the fact that Ludicolo does get access to Encore. So Encore could be great if your opponent protects in front of you. And in the rain, like maybe say you run Incineroar and Ludicolo as the lead, and maybe your opponent is just expecting a Fake Out off of one of your 2 Pokemon. They just decide they're going to try to be cheeky and just go for that Protect off both Pokemon. Well, then you just switch in Pelipper for Incin and then just Encore your opponent into Protect. Or maybe they decide that Ludicolo is not really the hardest hitting Pokemon, so they decide to set up, like, say, maybe Swords Dance off King Gambit, and then you just go for the Encore into them. It's not a Prankster Encore, so you can Encore Dark types, which could be relatively nice at the end of the day. So You could do something like that. And in this case, too, with Ludicolo, you probably could get away with either a Life Orb or maybe a berry. Like, having a Sitrus Berry wouldn't be the worst thing for that little spurt of HP if you're playing a more supportive Ludicolo. So maybe what you want to do is maybe you want to invest more into your HP and your speed. I'm just throwing out random numbers, by the way. I didn't, like, make any exact specifications with this, but maybe say you're running 107 into your speed so you can outspeed Dragapult. Maybe you got a little bit of special attack in that, so maybe like, say, 44. Maybe you're running a Bold Nature. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas. Normally, when I do these discussion videos, I tend to throw some things into the calculator to see what works and what doesn't, but honestly, I just really wanted to do this video, and I just didn't really have the time to do it, so we're just kind of winging it right here and seeing what we can come up with. So maybe as far as our defense goes, maybe we want to go up to, like, say, 116 and then put the rest into our special defense. We could also potentially have some light screen or reflect support. I mean, we also touched on the parting shot, so maybe Ludicolo is getting a little bit bulkier this way here, so just some food for thought for some ideas. So you could do something like that, and I forgot to put in Triage and Comfey, but you guys get the idea. You have the Floral Healing. Arch is getting bulky because of stamina. You have Floral Healing. You have Ludicolo to do some support, some speed control. You can heal it up as well. If you're playing a Specs Ludicolo, you could do the same idea with Comfey. You could just heal it up, especially if Pelipper goes down. I mean, this core of 5 Pokemon right here, we don't really have the most physical attackers, so you could technically get away with, like, say, maybe Basculegion if you don't really care too much about Rillaboom. Like, maybe you have some other Pokemon that could just handle that, but honestly, I kind of like the idea of, say, maybe Grimmsnarl for some screens. Like, that could be relatively nice, and then that way you have that Prankster screens. You have Spirit Break to keep special attackers in line. You could do something like that. I don't know. It's been such a long time since I've thought about Ludicolo that team building has been a little bit kind of but I mean, you could do something like this. It could be entertaining. I mean, Mousehold could be nice too on the physical front, since you do have access to Technician Pop Bomb. So, like, you could have the Technician right there. You could throw the Wide Lens on just to raise the accuracy of the move, and then Pop Bomb could just be insane. So basically, you could hit up to 10 times with that thing. You pop Terra Normal, you go for the Population Bomb, and just have some fun. You could do something like that. And one other thing that I do want to point out, and this is extremely, extremely niche, but Ludicolo does get access to Sweet Scent as an egg move. Now, normally, Sweet Scent, terrible move. It's not great. It's kind of gross. But I got thinking about it a lot, especially since Regulation G is coming around. And while Ludicolo does not get access to Helping Hand, sadly enough, Ludicolo having Sweet Scent and Swift Swim could be a really nice combination. Now, for Pelipper and Politoed, this doesn't really matter too much because both of those Pokemon like to take advantage of Weather Ball, and in Pelipper's case, it does like access to Hurricane, which can't miss in the rain. But there's another rain setter here that also doubles as a sweeper that could benefit from having its target's evasion lowered. And it could be good, it could be bad, I don't know. But I'm thinking Kyogre. So I don't know if Swift Swim, Sweet Scent has been a thing, but if you think about it, Kyogre, it likes to run Water Spout. Now, Water Spout, like Eruption, gets weaker as you take more damage, so you don't necessarily want that to be your only water type attack. And typically, Kyogre does like to run Origin Pulse, but Origin Pulse can be blocked by Wide Guard, and Wide Guard is really prevalent in restricted formats, seeing as a lot of legendary Pokemon have strong hitting attacks that like to hit both sides of the field, or well, that's mainly it, really, with why you run Wide Guard. Is a lot of legendary Pokemon have, like, those heavy hitting attacks like Water Spout and Origin Pulse, or Eruption, Precipice Blades, Astral Barrage, Glacial Lance. So Wide Guard is kind of necessary in a restricted format. But Origin Pulse only has 85 accuracy, and if you want to look at running a single target move instead, well, Hydro Pump, while it is heavy hitting at 110 power, it's 80 accuracy. It's actually worse than Origin Pulse. But if Sweet Scent is here lowering the evasion stat of Pokemon by 2 stages, and it's also a spread move, uh, you could have some fun right there with Origin Pulse and Hydro Pump. Like, I don't know. The most recent video I put out was my Diplin and Hydrapple video, and so like talking about Super Sweet Syrup kind of got me thinking about this. But yeah, Sweet Scent might be underrated, and on an ability like say Swift Swim where it doubles your speed, like this could be really nice. Like having that 134 speed, while it's not necessarily the fastest right there, that could be really nice. Like if you combine Sweet Scent with like say maybe Icy Wind for a little bit of speed control, maybe you're running a sash on your Ludicolo as well, so that you live the hit. Like maybe you go in, you Icy Wind, you Sweet Scent the next turn if you survive. Now you have speed control. Now, depending on how you're building and running at Kyogre, like you could potentially go for Origin Pulse or Hydro Pump. So that could be just some fun food for thought when Reg G starts back up in January. Like it's around the corner. Like we're at the end of November, and obviously December's gonna fly pretty fast. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to think about Reg G as well. Just having that in the back of your mind. But anyways, that's the majority of what I was thinking about when it came to Ludicolo. Kind of a bit more of a rambly, like impromptu video here. But let me know what you think of Ludicolo. It's definitely a fun Pokemon. I think it could be a relatively strong in Regulation H, or in the bare minimum, it can potentially hold its own. It might still be a little bit power crept by Archaludon, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have around and try, especially whereas rain is so prevalent. And I mean, maybe, and this is really spitballing, maybe you just want to have an alternative to another rain, like a means of messing with rain, because I think I saw this off False Swipe Gaming, and this is a little bit of a tangent before I let you guys go, but I'm pretty sure False Swipe Gaming talked about a competitive player that ran Ludicolo. And if you guys know about this, be sure to let me know and clarify this in the comments below. But if I remember right, there was like a VGC player, and what they did was they actually ran Ludicolo on a Sun team. And the whole purpose of it being on this team was if they ran into an opponent running rain, they would rely on Swift Swim to double Ludicolo's speed. Ludicolo would then use Sunny Day to outspeed the opposing rain team and then override the rain with the sun. And then they would go from there. I think it was False Swipe Gaming that talked about that. I don't remember. But I do remember that being in the back of my mind, and I think that is amazing tech. So there's the tangent. That's done. Now, be sure to let me know what you think of this Pokemon down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.